Hi everyone. Today I thought I'd share a thought with you on the system playing Russian Dolly. I chose this title as something that would be able to explain to you much further in why I am presenting it in such a way. This is about the system, as you know, and so the following explanation is for the adept focus. So if you are brand new to this channel, welcome, and please follow the prompts that I've put on the channel and start from the beginning. The system uses basically a form of overlay, and what I will be explaining to you is an introduction to the system itself and for basic understanding. I've referred to the system as an overlay or as a cosmic devourer. It is based on a set of contracts and agreements whereby the user of the system has to give consent for the self to become subjected to agreements to become part of the system. The system is also known as the demiurge in Gnosticism with a capital G. The system seeks to be worshipped. In other words, man must worship man. That's the actual the end goal for that process. That's in between. That is also just a program, but for now we'll keep it to that discussion only. Coincidentally, the image that you see right now, the screenshot, has got serious Chinese imagery all over it. This has got nothing to do with the Chinese people or any racial anything like that, but if you type in superstars, worship, idol for a wallpaper, you'll see that there is absolutely zero imagery of the regular rock stars, pop stars, idols that used to be there, but is now filled with something completely different. So, eyes open, heads up, eh? The system can also be described in the Orthodox Church and Ecumenism on page 99, where, quote, European culture is based on man. Man is its program and its goal, its means and its content. Humanism is its chief architect. It is totally constructed on the sophist principle and criterion that man, European man, is the measure of all things, visible and invisible. He is the supreme creator and giver of values. The truth is whatever he proclaims is true. The purpose of life is whatever he proclaims it to be. Good and evil are what he pronounces good and evil. To put it briefly and bluntly, he makes himself God. Have you not noticed how immensely he loves to play God in science and technology, philosophy and culture, religion and politics, art and fashion? To play God at any price, even by inquisition and papism, by sword and fire, by savagery and cannibalism. In the language of his humanistic positivistic science, he has pronounced that there is no God. Guided by that logic, he confidently concludes that as there is no God, he is God. European culture has been systematically suppressing in man all that is immortal and eternal, paralyzing his sense of immortality and diminishing his soul until it is reduced to nothing. And this quote comes from Saint Justus Popovich and the Orthodox Church and Ecumenism material. So in simple terms, end quote, in simple terms, the worship of man is the second creation. The sacrifice is part of the second creation, of course, and I've mentioned this before, followed by the third creation, as out of the sacrifice comes a technological enhancement of the system, a personifying of its existence, or a type of ghost in the machine, or many of these beliefs or overlays. In media, you can see this. In the movie industry, you see it as well. The system is formulated out of the beliefs that man believes himself to be the ultimate God, and that by here, this man is a living soul, but it requires much magic works to make this belief become real. Or at least a God needs a universe to lord over, even if it's a metaverse. A living soul is one who does not have spirited connection or is devoid of it. The living souls and the life-giving souls, there is a difference between these two. A life-giving soul is, as I've also mentioned before in my knowledge material, you'll find it on the channel, where a living soul is a being that has a basic soul that functions in basic, primitive, or primal existence, does whatever is impulse-driven. And a life-giving soul is a person or a being who has a spirit intact with the other faculties, and that means you have mind, body, soul, and spirit as a whole unity, which means you are then able to discern and how to express and not just follow blindly, of course. And popular cultures also describe the living soul as a type of golem, if you have a background which is Jewish, or this is where a person is used as a vessel to be utilized by a higher energy form. I used to call them familiars, and familiars are often used during witchcraft as a type of tool or a vessel that can do the job for them. Or demons if you have a background in religions, or you have religious background, or alien hybrids if you believe in ufology. Whatever your background, you have had some experience with it. So basically this gives you the understanding that whatever you've thought it to be in your internal personal journey, that is what it is. There is no other way around that. So why the term Russian doll? The system operates in 3 cycles or events. It's mainly 3. It also is part of the first. The first one is known as the ritual or the sacrifice. And an example here is the accident that happened in South Africa, Boksburg. I can't go into too much detail because of algorithms, in which a truck filled with fuel had become trapped under a bridge, and the rituals will be discussed later. I'll place the links at the bottom for you to see what I mean. This is pertaining to South Africa only. The second way was what followed straight afterwards. It's almost absurd, and it's given a feed from the first one, is a truck that got stuck under a bridge yet again, but it had vehicles on top of it. And then thirdly, another one where the bus got stuck under the bridge. I mean, that is completely absurd beyond, but then I've been saying that this is how it works. So the first one is the ritual, and then follows by the fractals of the first one, so that it has a 3-tiered power system, or a 3-level attempt to get your attention. The reason the second one with the vehicles on top had taken place was to explain that it really is part of the replication of the first one, and so forth. I don't think I need to go and labor this even more. I think it makes pretty much sense. This followed in days after each other. It's quite remarkable. And so the system gives itself away every time. It's so simple, it's so obvious if you know how to look, if you're aware of what you're seeing. The most ornate one was also another example when Mandela got released, or was released, and he was made president of South Africa at the time, back in the day. And this was very heavily focused around much ritual of other things that had taken place. And then the actual Psyop program, which I want to call this Psyop, called the Mandela effect, and basically the naming of itself is also part of the psychological operation to trip your mind into another belief or programs. So literally, your mind is made into giving consent or focusing into the Russian doll programming. I'm calling it that. And later on, followed by many unexplainable events, which obviously was the creation of the Mandela effect itself. They also drew in stuff from CERN, which I cannot explain. I cannot explore that because it is too. There are not enough facts and material to research that, because when you research it, you go into some sort of black hole and you don't really come out. But anyway, and so it followed by very strange understandings that he died, or did he not die? And so everyone was like, what the hell? But I thought he died, etc., etc. That's all, mind control thing in itself. The Mandela effect is also part of the system. It's a glitch or a fractal in an absurdist manner. So the key already is something for you to start to become mindful of, is when the ritual takes place, the actual event takes place, and then it's followed by fractals or in absolute absurdist manner. Okay, it's almost comical. It's like a clown show. And then straight after that, not so long ago, then after was Barack Obama, and he came on the scene as well. And what were the odds of him looking very similar to Mandela? I mean, isn't that already something to tell you that this is like already bizarre in itself? We know, realistically speaking, and I'm talking about humans, people with spirit, those people I'm talking to, that the case that there are doubles around in the world is quite rare, but nonetheless. So I'm wanting you to think about this. Ritual after ritual and fractal after fractal, these things keep building up and expanding itself so that people will interpret it in a particular way that they find themselves to interpret it into. These are just very simple, basic examples of how things are played out. There are so many others. I'm not going to spend all the time to bring it in here. A person in your household, for example, and wanting to have an argument with you or trying to fight you, it could be an unhappy couple, or doesn't matter. And what they do is they normally try to present the worst, most insane argument that you could ever have and never have thought up. It's very random and it's super destructive. That's another form of the system in your personal life, for example. There are so many examples like these. How do you understand if there had been anything that had been determined as a ritual? Be sure that there is definitely a fractal following it. Crisis actors, the same thing. Now it's everywhere. I mean, there's not no event or any event that does not have a crisis actor in it. I wonder if the crisis actor thought, thing, plan, idea isn't even part, is perhaps also part of the whole of the system in its existence. And are there days when the system is more active? I guess you wanna question yourself that. Yes, normally around ritual days. Kind of obvious, isn't it? How do you know when there are rituals? Well, I've described it in so many ways. I describe it as an overlay of energy or frequency that is alive and functions semi-autonomous. It is partly organic and not. It is etheric in its presence. It is very real, and it's been within the garden of creation since the very beginning. And with any organic form of existence, we will also always encounter parasites. So when you ask, how do you know when there are rituals? You'll know when you experience it, when you see it, when it plays itself out for you. The common cold is also another example of that. So you become affected by it. And some have been born on the cross as they come into this life. When I say born on the cross, the reference is starkly referring to the crucifixion as the reference point of man's existence. To be placed on the cross is a sacrifice that man has to endure while living within the system, but man has a choice, a free will, a choice to choose not to be on the cross, and a free will to change direction, to reform yourself, to create a renaissance of your original existence. If you are connected to your spirit, then that is what the next step is. If you want to choose to be off of the cross, choose to be away from the control of the cross, and I'll explain to you what the cross is in a second, then you will then utilize your free will, which is inherent in you, to redirect your life path, to reinvent yourself, so that your frequency becomes undesirable. You become like battery acid that the system can't devour you in any form. You just stick out, and it wants to just move away from you. That's how you can do it, by the way. The choice in this regard is to realize that man does not need to crucify himself, and that the entire story of the Christian religion had been taken literally as a savior for all men, which is in actuality means if Jesus was the Son of God, then the crucifixion is the sacrifice of all man, because man is made in the image of God. That is the simple form of that explanation. Therefore, the system has checkmated you into that belief that there must be a person who is hanging on the cross to die for your sins. That is the greater good ideology belief system also. So even if the person really did exist back then, the crucifixion act already in itself is horrible. It's terrible. It should not have happened. Okay, that is already just something bad that should not have happened. The crucifixion is, however, not limited to only Christianity. It is also in reference to the cross which man has to bear. In other words, the understanding or the acceptance of things as they are. And so a metaphysical explanation of the cross is called belief, or I believe. I upright and believe left to right. And this is the condition. Belief in itself is a conditioning which may have occurred long ago, but as mankind grows, belief had become more softer, more blurring the boundaries. Belief had become more sort of an agreement, let's shake on it, or whatever has happened to be observed. The cross is therefore then a symbolic description of an agreement to adhere to the system and its dwellers, or to actually get off of it. So no, it's not about the common laws, it's not about straw men, it's not about the feudal system, it's none of these things, it's just another golem or a tool to be worshipped. The first sin, if you will, as I've been saying for a long time, was that man started to worship man, and man worshipped everything, including himself, outside of himself. That is the fatal flaw and the original sin that the entire mankind itself has to fix. That is why man is given a chance to fix it. This is why you are here. That is that simple. How do you get off of the cross or the agreement? You just get off by getting inside of yourself. I think that is pretty obvious. This also does not mean that the same old adage or belief that man lives in a prison planet. That is a ridiculous, absurd belief system, which is also derived from a very fractured gnosticism belief back in the day, that everything is evil and you need to get off the planet. If that was the case, why are you even here? You should not have been here. And if you say you didn't have free will and you came here and you were forced to come here, then that is also bullshit, because you choose to come here. You have the laws in the etheric realm where you are before you enter this realm is, do you want to agree to come here? Yes or no? If yes, this XYZ, this is what will happen. If you choose not to come, then that's okay. You will forfeit this turn. That is how it works. That cannot be changed. That can never, ever be changed. That is the law that is within the original creator. You will have that free will to choose that or not. If it was a prison planet, like I said, there would be no free will. Right now, where you are, you have free will. If you are here on this channel and you're listening to this work, it means you have already tapped in to your free will, because your spirit is understanding the material that is being revealed here today. The Gnostics obviously took it quite literally when they described the system to be a god of this world, calling itself Yaldabaoth or the demiurge. Kabbalah may also have some influence here, as I've said before, which I'm busy exploring and putting work together. And as I've said, I'm currently working on it to present a breakdown of Kabbalah itself. The Kabbalah and the Sephiroth is part of what is locking the system in place. So that is the current belief system. I'm explaining that to you. The system is also not Satan or the devil. Satan or the devil are archetypes or references of the mental process in how the system presents itself. Pure evil, was the original creator, is the system completely pure evil? No, not really, because if it was, there would be no system, and people would probably have become aware of it much easier. So it knows how to play you, so that you will think it's okay, it's, for the greater good, and, that thing that's like brilliant pink and green must be healthy for me, so there's that belief. Is this the system controlled by a psycho god? No, not even that, because God does not care about these things. Great Spirit does not give a damn about it. Great Spirit has presented to you free will. Make with it what you will. You will have to decide. An original creator does not need mankind to venerate it, to do things for, to deal with, to make deals with, to bargain with. But there is love enough for those to be mindful that they can still work and change things within themselves to get out. It really is a place, a playing field or a chessboard where you are operating according to certain processes, certain systems, and your operating system or your interface has to understand, has to accommodate a particular operating system, yet you still have the ability to rewrite the program of, let's say, Linux, so that you don't have to choose Windows 11. That's just a simple example there. So I've told you numerous times that free will exists in a very specific manner, and it must not be confused with free choice. But I've just explained to you now how it works. So learn to understand the difference, please, because only if you are in the spirited person, that means you have mind, body, soul, and spirit intact, and you have been doing inner workings, you have been seeding the consciousness within, and so also to those that you connect with. If you have the connection within your heart, then you are already connected to your spirit. A system player is aware of that. Let me reiterate that and tell you. The system players are aware of that. And let me give you an example. The chessboard has on it chess pieces, pawns in the front, followed by knights, bishops, castle, and king and queen. The chess pieces operate in duality. You live in a system that uses duality as a means of its existence. Without the duality, without the black and white checkerboard, if duality was not there, it would not be a checkerboard. Correct? So, they also believe in good or evil, good or bad, and only by what social media or minions of the system describe what is good or bad. Only in that way do they think that they are able to sway enough people to agree to those things, Choose the red instead of the blue. Choose blue pill, red pill. Like I've said before, the ones who talk about the red pill or a blue pill bullshit, that's bullshit. It's duality. It just is yet another duality. It's like the green, the weird, strange green, lime green color versus the bright magenta pink. It's the same damn thing. Duality. And only by what the system presents itself through media. It loves media. This is why I'm saying you should never worry about total blackout, because blackout will shut down all forms of technology, and it requires technology. So you have to make it work for you. You have to be smart and strategic to understand what I'm trying to explain here. So the total darkness, annihilation, death, forever, apocalypse bullshit is also just another carrot on the stick that's glowing and making you feel stressed every day. So I've been talking about this now for many years. Those who know me will know. And for those who are new, like I said, let me explain it a little bit clearer. There is a third path, a middle path, the one that cuts between those two paths, the left and the right. The middle path is the path from within the heart, and the heart is in alignment with the inner wisdom. The temples of the mind are the mind, and in other words, thinking and exploring and going within yourself allows you to explore the depths of things, and questioning and healing and doing and thinking, actually, and using critical thinking. Although I see now these days the word critical thinking is now tied up to critical race theory. It just is so typical of the system. Keeps on perpetuating copy after copy after copy after copy, etc., ad infinitum, until you actually, like I said, choose to become like battery acid for it. The inner eye of the third eye, or the third eye if you need to know, this inner eye is in actuality being systemized or demonized as the eye of a Providence. Your third eye, once you understand who you are able to understand that if you have the insight, you are able to have the sight of Providence yourself. Okay, it does not belong to any Illuminati crowd. It does not belong to any group, any Mason, any freaking anything else. When you think you use more than one part of your mind, obviously to think, you will have Providence. You don't just think in one way. You think in a multidimensional way, or in a metaphysical way. You do not only solve problems. You think. You're not a calculator, you're not a computer. You become creative and you express. You love and write poetry. You make music. You paint. You strategize. You write books, etc., etc., etc. Creation, creativity. You do mantras. You do prayer work. You do spiritual work within. You appreciate things that are there for you. When you've had no money, no food that have been in your life, and suddenly there is a person that says, here's something for you to do, and you do it and you get paid. That was a miracle for you because you didn't have it before. So it also requires you to have gratitude for where you are in your immediate environment. In other words, you are thankful that you have a roof over your head, or you are thankful that tonight it's not raining and tomorrow you can make a plan. Basic thankfulness, gratitude is part of the foundation of the heart connection. The system uses, like I said, Kabbalah to define itself. I will go into this more deeper because Kabbalah is hypercubic. It is also linear, and cubic is based on masculine energy, only which means that feminine is also masculinized, as well as masculine energy is feminized. So it's complete crossover mashup, as I've said in the previous video. And so it requires willing hosts to bring forth this type of belief system or this creation. And so remember, basic biology. A male needs female to create offspring. End of story. Nothing else. Same applies for metaphysical process. The masculine energy is creative, requires the female, which is feminine, the soul and the spirit, to bring forth offspring, which is the child of that creation. That is a metaphysical description of creation. And the same thing applies. If you want something, you will do the spiritual work internally to have that thing happen for you. Whatever you need, that is how it works. Okay, however, this mashup has keyed in to when people start to use this work. So you need to be very, very discerning in how and when you use this. Because if you think of something, anything, and I've tested it out, literally in 4 days it happens. It's quite disturbing for it to happen so quickly. It's not normal. It shouldn't happen so quickly. The system does not only use Kabbalah, like I've said. This is just another way, and I will be discussing this, as I said, in the future. It is important that when the system requires to use a certain ideal or program to influence people, you must understand that it operates in 3: rituals, fractals, and belief. Those are the 3: ritual, fractals, and beliefs. When things become super absurd, like I said, remember this, then know as a fact that the system is fully engaged with you, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Spirituality, or in spirit, is the last gate before the pawns or on the chess can storm through to your essence. Your spirit is the last resistance to it. If it's managed to conquer you in all the other gates, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, these are gates that the system can crash through. So I've referred to the system as a devourer, like I've said before, and I'll explain it a little bit more deeper. If you don't understand, please go to the previous video that I've made about the meta mashup and the ones before that. I've also referred to the system as a set of principles of something that is in itself a living thing, that is egregore-like. An egregore requires much belief in it for it to become alive. It is the same thing for it to become a living God or a living deity. And the system is not the government. It is not only religion. It is not only the New World Order. It is not only the WF. It is not just any of these things. It's not even politics. It's none of these things specifically. It is the entire structure or frequency or energy or form or thing that has these things are just small fingers or small tentacles that make up this thing. The system must be understood as something that exists for itself. It has a life of its own, and that the more truer understanding is that submittance has to be given to it for it to grow. The thing with the 10 horns needs you to pray to it and submit to it. And that is how it will grow. That is its end goal for now. It never has an ending to it, though. Let me put it this way. Its goal is to have man become God. That's its goal. That's where they're trying to drive everything to. But luckily, there are a lot more people around that actually are not consenting to any of this particular thing, including the entire New World Order event itself is a program. Just like the previous 2 years, 3 years of drama that had a heavy focus on the crown mental capacity, so that your mind would be like pulp for it to seed and use whatever it needs. It's like basically you got knocked on the head by something so absurd that it was beyond. It was like a feast of food for it. The most important aspect is really the understanding that you are able to resist it, like I've been saying. If you are very much in alignment with your inner thinking, your spirit, your heart, love, kindness, etc., as you explore this at any given point in time, you are able to resist the influences of these things. You need to be kind to yourself, and you need to come to that place where you are able to reinvent yourself if you feel that you have always been a pawn of, or being harassed by the pawns of the system. I'm not saying, like I've said before, don't be absurd and stop working and start becoming a breatharian. That is also a program in itself. You need to be logical and practical in your existence. I'm leaving this with you to think on. I hope this has given some guidance as to how we are exploring this. Have a good one. Thank you.